1, 2. That's recording. All right, let's go live on Instagram. Going live on the Insta. All right, Charlie, here comes the intro. You're listening to the Grow Clinton podcast. Grow Clinton is a 501c6 nonprofit economic community development and tourism organization based in Clinton, Iowa. For more information, visit growclinton.com. Again, that's growclinton.com. Now, back to the show. What's happening, everybody out there in podcast land? I know you love it. You love to listen to it. The Grow Clinton podcast coming to you right here from Grow Clinton headquarters at 721 South 2nd Street in the great state of Iowa. My name is Andy Sokolovich. I'm the president and CEO of Grow Clinton. As always, your host for the Grow Clinton podcast. This 114th episode, recording on the 9th day of May, 2025. I'm usually joined by Jenny Home from our office, but unfortunately, she woke up this morning not feeling so hot. So it's just me. That's all you get. I am going to be joined by Charlie Minnick here in a second, but one thing that I got to share and I absolutely love is high-speed fiber internet. That's right, folks. The Grow Clinton podcast is powered by Miles Communications. Check them out for all your high-speed internet needs. MilesTelephone.com. Again, MilesTelephone.com. Also offering television and telephone services. MilesCommunications.com. Great guest in the studio today. I love it when Dr. Charlie Minnick joins us to talk about our ongoing partnership to host a series focused on leadership called Leadership Unlocked. We have our May session coming up on the 21st of May at 2 p.m. located right here in our office. Again, 721 South 2nd Street. For those that wish to attend but can't physically be here, you can also register via the Facebook event page and sign up to receive a Microsoft Teams link so you can partake virtually. Charlie, leading with emotional intelligence. What can we expect during the next Leadership Unlocked series all about emotional intelligence?
Cool. Yeah, I think that's first of all, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, sir.
Beautiful Friday. Happy Mother's Day weekend to
it is.
all those mothers,
good reminder.
all the
Good
mothers
reminder
out there. So that's a beautiful weekend. So
yeah,
get out and celebrate mom, however you do
yeah,
that. So,
celebrate mom.
Yeah, celebrate mom. So so this week this month we're talking about emotional intelligence. So you talk about, some folks have there's IQ sort of things, there's technical skills sort of intelligence, but part of it, and I think probably one of the most important parts, is emotional intelligence, being that how do we have the ability to understand and manage, which is the hard part some days.
Yes, it is.
Not only understanding and recognizing, but managing our emotions, plus understand, influence, and kind of be compassionate about the emotions of others.
Yes, very difficult thing to do.
It can be, especially when things are kind of heated a little bit. When things get a little, extra passionate. Emotions are high. How do we do that? How do we, recognize, manage, those type of things? Because sometimes what happens is we just, and we talked a little bit about, when we talked about getting to yes last time with conflict, we are hard on the people and maybe a little too soft on the problem. We attack the person. It's like, it's you. It's like, people get excited. They're like, why don't you just calm down? That's probably not the best approach.
Right.
Well, why are you always so emotional? That's not very being emotionally intelligent. So part of it is recognizing that and acknowledging that. And then how do we try to work through together to understand where the other person is, what they're feeling, why are they feeling that way? And then try to help. How do we try to understand, move the process along with empathy and compassion, as opposed to just pointing the finger and blaming and go, you are always so emotional. Why can't you ever just calm down?
Yeah.
That's not helpful. That's not very emotionally intelligent.
I'm looking at a graphic right now from Harvard Business School, and they have 4 core competencies of emotional intelligence, and that's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and the relationship management. And given the last week or so of my professional career, I've run into a lot of this. And just for example, I had an interaction with some of my leadership. I work for a board of directors as a president and CEO of a nonprofit. And so not only do I find myself having to manage my own self-awareness and my own emotions as they come out, whether I'm being challenged or praised, I'm managing the emotional response that I receive from my staff and the emotional response I receive from relatively large board of directors. So there's a lot of moving pieces in there. And I truly believe this emotional intelligence course that you're going to offer on May 21st should be something that every leader, whether they're existing in current position as president and CEO, or they're managing just a small group, needs to take advantage of to understand how to better apply emotional intelligence to their efforts as a leader.
Yeah. And I think you make a good point too. How do you also try to manage and help guide the emotions of your supervisor? How do you, I mean, you can, so I have this person that, I manage these people, or I have these coworkers at the same level I am, but how do I try to operate in the emotional intelligent way with people who have more power than I do, have more influence than I do? How do I try to do that? So I think it's about just, I think, asking questions. That's a good place. I think the ability to ask good questions is the most important communication tool that we have. Helps with clarity, helps with understanding, make sure you understand where people are, how they're feeling, those type of things. It's just trying to assume that, boy, this person's always so emotional.
Yeah.
So I try to help to put context into the situation about that. So.
Now, I've been out of the military service for 12 years. Excuse me. But that was one of the most difficult things, leaving the military, transitioning to civilian life, and then ultimately coming into a position of authority and management. Because in the military, you don't have a lot of emotional intelligence. It's just like, look at my rank on my arm, and I just told you to do something, and therefore you will comply. And that's how this is going to work. And if you don't like it, then, go and become a civilian. So after 12 years of dealing with that, which was difficult for me at some times, because I do often grow a little combative and defensive when I am cornered. But transitioning out and applying or learning about how to control your own emotions and then identify the emotional stressors or ways that people convey their emotions for subordinates was difficult.
It is hard. Sometimes, that it reminds me of the old saying, the old command and control is that beatings will continue until morale improves.
Is exactly right.
So we're going to get, beatings will until morale improves. Okay. That's a little counterproductive, but I think the first piece that you talked about is really important, is self-awareness. I mean, and that's hard for folks, because sometimes, lots of studies have been done that shown that more people think they're self-aware than they actually are self-aware if you drill down. So
it's a lifelong learning.
It is. It's, and I think that's about leadership too. It's an ongoing process, and you always be a constant learner. You're never done learning. You're never done getting better, improving. Context change, people change, organizations change. So we have to continue to grow and evolve, I think. So I think that's the hard part, is to not only understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, but to recognize your emotions and the effect it has on other people.
Right.
I mean, you're talking to, about, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of the third quadrant, the social piece, but part of it is you can walk into like groups and teams stuff. It's almost, you can almost feel it.
Oh yeah.
If something's not well, people are on pins and needles. It's like something's going on. And then that impacts creativity and decision-making and all that kind of stuff. Because people are afraid to speak up.
Myself and Jenny Home from her office, and Stacy, and really everyone at Grow Clinton has the opportunity to visit a lot of our regional employers. Yeah. And you can sometimes walk in, and we're escorted by the plant manager or the president. and you can see how employees respond to that individual's presence when they walk into a room. And it really tells a lot about their leadership style and how that company is functioning.
Yeah, I think it's called like managing by walking around, caring by walking around, that kind of stuff. Because you're right. If the only time people see somebody out and about is when somebody's in trouble, something bad, that kind of stuff's going on, then that's not healthy. But you can tell, if the person's out and about, normally it's the way they operate, they talk to people, they have good relationships. You can just tell.
Yeah,
I think when you're out and about. So I think that's, but I think it starts again. That's why I think self-awareness is probably first, because it starts with you. You have to be self-aware of your strengths, weaknesses, height, what's your because I think we all have natural tendencies, how we behave. So what does that look like? And then, so I think there's ways to do that. You can do some sort of 360 sort of deal, which talks about, and this thing, I think we talked about this Johari window thing, talks about kind of what you see in what you see, what others see, what others see, but you don't see, all those different things. So it can be really helpful as long as it's done with the idea of development, improvement, attacking people. But it's really fascinating if you can see, wow, I didn't see that about, I didn't see that about myself.
I totally agree. I mean, as I continue to mature, I'm 43 years old now, but as I continue to mature in a leadership position, I'm actually going through this 12-week class through the VA on problem solving. And I'm learning about myself that I am a very passionate person. I hold this organization in very high regard. It is something that I've been involved in. This is my 10-year anniversary working in economic development. Oversaw the merger transition from the Development Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce, ultimately to Grow Clinton. So not only do I have a lot of pride in my own abilities, it's not about me, it's about the team. But at the end of the day, when I feel like somebody's speaking poorly of my team or they're speaking poorly of the organization, I tend to go into defense mode. And what I'm learning to do is take a big breath, calm down, try to inject something in between me and the person that I feel is attacking me. And it's not always easy. It's not. And I just the other day I had a situation where my true colors were shown and I became defensive, not unprofessional, but definitely combative a little bit. And there's some things that I said or did or my demeanor that I regret, but I'm chalking up as a learning opportunity, because if I would have been approached by my leadership in a different manner, and we would have started, like you alluded to earlier, with questions, as adults having the communication back and forth, I probably would have reacted differently, but hindsight's 2020. So I have to adapt and change moving forward.
Yeah. And I think and you make a point. Part of it is we react that way. And especially when it's stuff that we care deeply about, that we're passionate about, we're emotionally, mentally invested in this thing, like all in. And if somebody says something, it's like somebody attacks your kid, right? You're gonna lash out and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's my kid. You're not gonna come after my kid that way. It's the same thing. But you're right. I think you gotta step back. Okay. So and it's a question. So if I'm hearing you right, boom, 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 boom. This is what, as opposed to going, that is beyond, whatever. You just reach out and go, that's the way, that's just not true. Okay. Well, then it's escalated. But I think sometimes, just the ability to kind of stop and take a breath, let me and just understand what people are saying. But it isn't, I'm a few years older than 43, but I'm still have those things every day. It's an ongoing learning process, and you have to just stop and think and those type of things. I think that's why self-awareness, I think, is first and foremost, because again, I think you have to effectively lead yourself where you can lead others. And if you're all emotionally out of touch, out of whack, things are out of skew, it's really hard to get results from other people, because it's just so emotional and out of whack, and then people don't say what had to be said and all that kind of stuff.
And you never really reach an agreement, and you don't have the ability to solve problems if all you're doing is arguing. And in the nonprofit sector, anybody that works for a board of directors,
Yeah.
it's even more difficult, in my opinion, because you are answering to a superior who does not work in your office every single day.
Yeah.
They come in, maybe once a month for a board meeting, or they pop their heads in here and there to check in on things, but they're not in the trenches. They're not answering the emails. So when they come in with very strong criticism, unless that's introduced in a emotionally intelligent way, understanding who you're talking to and how they could potentially respond if they feel like they're being cornered or challenged, that's important as well.
A lot of people, you get back in the quarter, especially if people care about stuff, people come out swinging.
Yeah.
You're just going to come out swinging.
Oh, it's that fight or flight type of thing, especially if you don't know what's coming and you feel like you're blindsided.
Whoa, and that's blindsided. So I think that's why you get into that self-management. I think that's why I think the self piece is important. Self-awareness, self-management. How do you have the ability to manage your own emotions when things are cooked up a little, especially when things are really excited? How do you keep a positive outlook when some of the things on the surface can be seen as perhaps like negative, down, not such a good thing? Okay, what can I take from this interaction to try to grow and develop myself, my team, the organization, all those type of things.
And this even applies to your home life too. I mean, I've had, my wife and I are on polar opposites end of the spectrum. I mean, when we engage in a discussion and maybe it's creeping up towards a potential argument, but the way I respond is to engage in that conversation and continue to talk until a resolution is determined. And if it's not, then I feel like something's missing. My wife, on the other hand, wants to avoid the conversation, not necessarily avoid it, but her first reaction, if she's feeling uncomfortable, is to physically separate herself from the interaction. And, when you have two people that one wants to continue, one wants to run away, you just end up chasing each other and nothing ever gets resolved.
Yeah. Then it just doesn't get worse.
But we're getting much better. I'm telling you, the stuff that I've been learning through the VA has been great. Again, we're talking to Dr. Charlie Minnick coming up on Wednesday, May 21st at 2 p.m. here at Grow Clinton, 721 South 2nd Street. We'll be hosting our next session of the Leadership Unlocked series, focusing on emotional intelligence. Go to facebook.com, search Grow Clinton, click on events, and you can just find the link to register. Again, if you can't physically be here, you can participate online via Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. And I think that you talk about the self-management thing. I think we all have to, first of all, self-awareness is, are we aware when we've hit that point? Because we all have to that point after so much. It's like, if anybody else gives me any more crap, that there's going to be victims. Okay, when are we at that point? And then what are some mechanisms and avenues I do to try to manage that and get, sometimes I think that's why in conflict, avoiding can be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes I just need, not that you're going to not deal with it, but sometimes you need to step away, go for a walk, revisit the next day, whatever that might be.
Collect your thoughts. It's amazing how much can change overnight.
Yeah, and that's like I said, especially in the technology world that we live in. That's why it's important to hit the think button before you hit the sun button. Because sometimes, man, you just want to crank something. You're just talking about boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's let it sit for a little bit, then come back and go, okay, does this really make sense? What purposes is it going to serve? Is it going to help? That kind of stuff. So I think that's why the self pieces are really important. And that's why it's because it starts with you, I think. Understand yourself, understand your emotions, and then how do I understand others and how do I impact others? That type of stuff I think is important. And it gets to the social awareness is, do people have the ability to read the room? Can you feel the pressures? Can you feel the tensions? Can you identify the elephant in the room? Sometimes you sit down the elephant in the room, because I think, and that's why, sometimes people who lack social awareness, if we've ever been to meetings or that kind of stuff where we keep talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over, because too often what we do is we try to solve symptoms of problems and not the problem. So you put a Band-Aid on a problem, it's going to keep rearing its head. So I think you have to get to, what's the root of the thing? You talk about Kaizen sort of stuff, where you ask why about 4 or 5 times, and then you get to the root of stuff. Okay. But I think that's what happens when we continue to meet about the same thing. It's like, are we really going to meet about this again? Well, that's because you haven't really solved it. You just try to solve a symptom. Well, employees are unhappy. That's not really the problem. That's a symptom of something. So why are they unhappy? And then why? And then hope we can get to the root of the problem. But I think that's part of that social awareness stuff. It's about the empathy, understand people's emotions, what's their perspective. You see this because we all have those perceptions and things we bring to the table, experiences, all that kind of stuff to the table. So how do I understand other people? How do we, sometimes we try to come to a conclusion, but how is it hard for someone to try to implement what we're talking about? You might come to this, but you know what? This is really hard for this person to implement this because this, and this. So I think that's part of this social awareness thing. You can communicate collaboratively more effectively with your peers if you're able to talk about and understand the dynamics of what's going on. That's important because sometimes you have to get understand the dynamics and all that kind of stuff, what's going on. I think that's especially good sometimes if people are new to a manager or you're coming in. That's why I think it's good for people if you're taking over a team or group to just do a lot more listening than you do talking. What's going on? What do you see as the problem? And that's why I always ask the king or queen question. If you were king or queen for the week or the month, what should we do to better support you so you can better support our clients, each other, those types. So that's probably my favorite question to ask people.
I like that.
Tell me what we can do from your perspective. And people give you great stuff as long as you give them an avenue to say something. So that's one of the first questions I'll ask everybody if we're going to tell me what is that? So you can get everybody's perspective, dynamics.
And you got
read the room.
Also, you got to figure out in what format to ask that question.
Yeah.
Because I know, like in our staff meetings, every Monday morning at 10 a.m., the entire staff gathers around the table in my office, and I always conclude the meetings with, what can I do to make your life easier? Do you need new technology? Is your computer slow? Do you not have the resources? Do you not have the time? Do you feel like you're maybe task saturated? Is your workload too heavy? Like, what can we do as a team to ensure that you're operating effectively? And so, sometimes I get comments and great interaction. Others, it's crickets. But I know there's always a time to have that question and that response and that dialogue, but maybe it's better off. Some people may appreciate it one-on-one as opposed to in a small group setting.
Yeah, that's part of it too. I think, again, that's part of reading the room. Like employee A might have great ideas, but it's hard for them to speak up in a public. But if you sit like this with them, you can really get some good stuff. So that's why we tend to have, larger department meetings, but also have like one-on-one things that's going on. So tell me because some people have great ideas, but they're just more introverted and they're like, you know what, I'm just not going to say it, but they have great ideas. So it's easier sometimes this way
and as a leader too, sometimes you feel incredibly distracted by their tasks at hand and you spend more time focusing on what you need to accomplish and then less time focusing on how your team is doing from overall well-being, how they feel about the workplace. So it is something you don't necessarily have to force, but be very aware of the need to create time to engage others.
Yeah, because you can, by creating that time, you can save time a lot. You can save more time in the long
run.
Worth
the investment.
Yeah, it is. You take a little bit here, but you get a lot more on the back end because it's not like, and that's why information is important. It's like, boy, I wish I would have known this yesterday. I'd have made a different decision. We'd have went a different direction. So that's why the whole social awareness, the next piece, like relationship management, so people can ask questions. You can give information. I need this. I need that. How do we, as leaders, provide information? Maybe it's some financial resources, it's time resources, it's human resources. What's that look like? So we can try to help get the most, because there's only 168 hours in a week. That's all there is. So, and think about all these roles we have to play. And I think one of the biggest challenges just in life and generally more is the idea of balance. How do we balance, all these roles that we have to play in 168 hours?
Oh, it's very difficult to me. I mean, again, been in this position as president and CEO of the organization for 3 years, but it's one of those things where I have to separate my work style, my leadership style, my tasks that seem to be never ending, and then somehow turn off that button, that engage button, that action button when I'm on my way home, because the dialogue can be completely different. And if I go home worrying about what's going on in the workplace, you're essentially never off, right?
Yeah.
Like mentally, you're never off. You're just constantly head spinning and spinning and spinning. You're thinking about the things you failed to do. And for me, I spend a lot of time in my own head thinking about the things that I've said and maybe regret, understanding I can't take them back. However, I need to make amends. I need to apologize. I need to move forward. I need to build those strategic relationships, and it can't be my own doing that breaks them down, because then we're not as effective. So yeah, it is difficult. Again, we're talking to Charlie Minnick. Charlie, I'll give you a few seconds here to close up, but believe it or not, we've been talking for 26 minutes.
I know, we could go on and on about so I've been really fortunate in all the years I've been at this to really connect with some really cool people, smart people along the way. So our speaker for emotional intelligence is Dr. Kevin Allen. I've known Kevin a long time. He's actually a member of our advisory board for our business programs where I work. And so he's he actually lives in England.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He was involved with, when you think about the priceless thing for MasterCard, he led that development of that.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a kind of an ed tech entrepreneur guy.
Is he from the UK or just
he lives in Florida.
Okay.
So I think he's from, but he's travels a lot. So,
right.
But so he has a CEO of a company. It's called EI Games, which means Emotional Intelligent Games.
Okay.
So it's so we incorporate that into a lot of our classes about those gamifications. So people walk through scenarios and do sort of stuff. And he's a Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Really?
I mean, yeah. So he's just a great guy. He's very easy, one of those easy guys to talk to. He has great insights and experiences.
Sounds like a humble fellow.
Yeah, Kevin's a very, very humble, very soft-spoken guy, but he's really a terrific guy. So he'll talk a lot about those things that we just talked about. So like self-awareness, how does that become a concrete daily practice in organizations? Emotional intelligence, not just a nice to do, it's a really have to do on a daily basis. So he'll have lots of great experience and insights that he'll share with us. So I'm excited he's going to help. So,
well, Charlie, we here at Grow Clinton are very appreciative of the fact that you are bringing in all these top-notch speakers, subject matter experts to our community as part of Leadership Unlocked. Again, the next class, no cost, free. FREE. Who wants something? I mean, everybody wants something for free, right? This is a free, no cost class. Again, Leadership Unlocked, next series, May 21st at 2 p.m. Leading with Emotional Intelligence. We will be joined by Dr. Charlie Minnick, and the presenter will be via Microsoft Teams, but we are all set up in our conference room to be able to handle the technology to do so. Again, May 21st, 2:00, register at growclinton.com, or you can find the event on Facebook. If you just go on Facebook, search Grow Clinton, then select events. You can register that way as well, or you can give us a call at 563-242-5702. Again, coming up May 21st, 2 p.m. right here at Grow Clinton. Leadership Unlocked, leading with emotional intelligence. Thank you so much, Charlie.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Lastly, I want to thank Miles Communications. As always, they are rock stars, giving us high-speed fiber internet. Without their services, folks, this podcast would not be possible. If you're looking to secure yourself some high-speed fiber internet, whether it be for your home or business, go to milestelephone.com and see if they're in your neck of the woods. If they're not there, they're on their way. My name, as always, Andy Sokolovich. It was a pleasure speaking with everyone today. I look forward to hearing more from Dr. Minnick. Until next time, stay classy, folks. Thank you for listening to the Grow Clinton podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all your socials. Until next time, see ya. All right, let me stop this. We're still end the stream there.